Well, I married at a young age. My wife and I met in high school. We got married at 21. We were meeting new friends, we were having children, we were accepting jobs, we were doing things that young couples do. And then it started to kind of catch up with us, and the weight of all those things that were so great, such good things, just started to, take a toll, started to wear on us. And it's almost like we didn't even know how bad things had gotten until it fell out. And then it was like, whoa, we're not intimate, not connected at all on an emotional friendship, partnership level. At this point in my life, I knew who I was to God. I knew that I belonged, but I still didn't allow him the control over my life. I still kept these little parts of myself hidden so that I would be in control. I wanted to manipulate his will for me into my version of his will. And I started to commoditize things in my life and looked at them and what they did for me. My wife being, the main one. My wife's not living up to me anymore. She's not, she doesn't appreciate me. She doesn't see me for who I am. And it ultimately got to the point where I sought the attention elsewhere. I developed an emotional relationship outside of my marriage. My wife noticed that I was acting differently. I was acting kind of distant, kind of cold. And she asked me, and I was honest with her then. And that was kind of a wake up for my wife. She went into fix mode, and she was awesome. She did everything. She signed us up for programs. We were spending more time together. We were staying up later. It was that time where I felt like I was really in the motions of trying to fix my marriage, but it felt tasteless, I guess. It felt like we were doing things because we had to. Like I just still felt like I wasn't being that full version of myself that I was built to be. And so out of nowhere, I just said I was leaving. Brought it right up to my wife's attention. We talked about it, and it was the worst night in history. It was just the worst. So she filed for divorce, and it just became a really ugly road. The vision of my future as a father, which was something I had always prided myself on above most things, was getting to where I knew I was going to be a bi-weekly babysitter. And I was getting this advanced sort of vision with my children of them asking me hard questions. Why weren't you here? Why weren't you there? And I wouldn't have an answer because I could have done more. And I'd be trying to tell them that I did everything I could, and I wouldn't have. So my rock bottom was when I was in the midst of myself. I had built a life around me that suited me. I was around people I wanted to be around, doing the things I wanted to do, until it just wasn't working. I wasn't seeing a future. I just stopped what I was doing and, literally in the middle of a drive, asked God, is what I'm doing what you will for me? And it was sort of less of something that could be put into words and more of just an overwhelming understanding of things that had already been put into place for me all this time and that I was overlooking. Had I done the things to my wife that I was expecting of her? Did I serve her in the way I expected to be served? And the answer was no. Now I had purpose. Now I had fuel that, wow, I was in the right place. I just wasn't doing the right things. That I was pretty selfish for a long time. I was on my way to that house and just knew I've got to get her back. I knew what to do, and I called the number and sort of broke down and just told her, I said something along the lines of, can you give me a minute? And I felt immediately that even though there was hurt and pain and insecurity, there was acceptance. And that was all I needed. God gave me the boldness to make that call, the selflessness to hear my wife's hurts without judgment or defensiveness, to be called out on things I'd done without any pride. And in return, there was forgiveness and love. The more I lean into God and what he wants for me, the better things feel and the less strings that are attached. When I finally got to the point where I could just give it up, that was when things really changed, because then I felt like I was freed for once. And it was such an enormous amount of weight lifted when you know where you belong and why you're positioned in life the way that you are and the people you're experiencing on a day-to-day basis. It's an enormous difference.